All right, GM everyone. Got a great episode for you here. Got 30 minutes with the hero Shep. Gonna do a quick intro and then we'll get started. Shep, how are you, GM?
GM, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's be quick here. Let's get started with the intro here. Hang on. All right.
That was great.
Brings me way back. Shep, it's awesome to have you here. I have sort of followed you. You lead the AI pod. Let's start with just kind of situating you here at the Hero Shep on Twitter. This you, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Sweet. What's this banner about? Up here.
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty into film and photography, and that's actually one of the pictures I've taken. It was in an art gallery, and that is the art that you see in the background, and someone who is taking a look at it in the foreground.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
like messing with perspective a bit. A lot of the time, my photography and stuff is more trying to find interesting patterns and um, it's great because it actually has become medium that I've plugged into these AI tools. So it's kind of I almost look at it sometimes as raw material a bit to build with. So like to have a piece of that in the banner.
Interesting. Have you taken photographs you've taken and put them through AI?
Yeah. And I really love that process, and I like to think of how we can use AI in that way. Really having it be a partnership almost, where it's something that helps you achieve, kind of your vision, rather than it being something that replaces. And so I've definitely taken some images and either replacing parts or all of it with kind of AI generated pieces.
Hmm. Let's get into that in a little bit. Definitely want to talk a lot about AI. I notice your PFP here is still you still have the GPT-3 coffee mug. Is there a new version coming of this?
Maybe. I mean, hey, maybe it'll just I'll keep it there as a token of the times. But yeah, no, I was just tuned into the GPT-4 live stream that started about 30 minutes before this. It wrapped up, but it was cool seeing some of the new capabilities, including the ability to uh, understand images, not only just text. So that is a cool capability coming soon.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're definitely going to get into AI stuff, AI pod. I wanted to start with kind of the first two words on your profile here, be kind. Can you talk about why that's important to you?
I think it's really important when we are in a pseudonymous or anonymous space to assume positive intent until proven otherwise, because we'll often, of course, be proven otherwise. But it's really easy to become jaded or through kind of bad experiences that may very well warrant the jadedness. But I like it as a reminder to um, that there are a lot of positive externalities that can come from being kind. And if you focus on kind of doing good and having people around you that do the same, then you can have a big positive impact.
Um, is that something you've noticed kind of throughout your life, or is that something you've come to more recently, or um,
Yeah, I mean, I
experiences in
think,
personal life?
yeah, I think that it's probably something that's come from, I've got a lot of cousins. I'm pretty tight with my family. I've got 16 first cousins. And I think that kind of that has led me to be very much so community oriented and focused around people, making sure they're having a good time. And I've seen the benefits that has brought me, and not just like benefits in terms of, oh, I do something for you, you do something for me, but more just the the legitimate joy that I get seeing people around me succeed, and the encouragement that I get from others is something that's been really positive in my life. So I like taking that and I think it's particularly important when we're dealing with the online space, which can too often be a bit negative.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen this kind of stuff. I would call this nounish. Have you seen it throughout the ecosystem?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think that's something that's core with nouns, and something that attracted me to nouns as well is this idea that they can operate much more efficiently, so can take flyers on a few different things, and if you get motivated people who are with positive intent, working on the same problem, that good things can happen, and that definitely attracted me to nouns. The first time I saw it, which was almost a year before I started getting involved, and got encouraged me when I did get involved to see that proved to be, I think, for the most part, true.
Great segue. Great segue. You had written somewhere that this tweet is sort of what caused you to get involved, right?
Yeah. So I've been in, I guess, crypto, Web3, whatever you want to call it, for a bit. First as a user, and then investor, and then developer. And I had a lot of I have been in a bunch of different Discords, as I'm sure you and everyone listening has as well. And when this tweet was released, one of my friends in one of the Discords knew that I was working on AI, and knew that, and saw that, and so sent it my way. And that kind of started what has become, I guess, a much longer journey that we're about 8 months into now, or 9 months into now, something like that. That definitely, I didn't expect to turn into this, but what has been a really exciting and fun and educational journey.
Yeah, I love to get into kind of the personal stories and the journeys. I think it's really important to kind of go into this kind of thing. I think this is the discourse post I found. This is August 22. Was this sort of the thing that started it for you?
So it started a little bit before with that tweet. So that tweet was in July, and what happened was, I believe it was in July, and 4156 was just generally interested with doing something with AI. The original idea was, how do we have Rocco vote like a nouner, like a nouner would, and that started with a few different things. One was taking a traditional machine learning approach, which was taking all of the vote reasons that have existed in the past, and trying to fine tune a model based on those to try and kind of have it reflect the style of past votes. But that wasn't too interesting. Just having some tool that we didn't, it was a black box that we didn't know how it voted, and it kind of took a while to experiment with a few different things. Ended up going to GPT and trying to, instead of just trying to create a vote, have it break down a proposal and summarize it and try and point out parts of it that were important that may cause someone to vote one way or another, and then have a vote. And that's where we started kind of getting a little bit of traction. And after, it took a little bit of time, probably like a month, where I was working with 4156 a bit, and then Brian, just kind of getting feedback from them. And kind of whenever I wouldn't hear back from them, kind of take that as a sign that needed to put some more work into it and find something that delivered a bit more value. And eventually kind of iterated until I found something like this, where the idea was to try and use these large language models to improve governance. So like AI for governance was the initial idea, and we were able to kind of formalize that into a first exploratory sprint, which is what you see here.
And was this the first funding you got?
It is, yeah.
So you did like a pitch to Noun 22, maybe in a Discord or a DM, and then you wrote this up, and then he said he'd fund your residency?
Yeah, so it was more, it was like I was trying to understand, how Nouns was structured internally and where there were possible sources of funding. And, you know, at that time, Small Grants was funding your people to do interesting research that could have some positive benefits for Nouns and improve reach. And so like this tool would have been the idea was to make it easy for people to keep up with what's going on in the ecosystem. And then we could also continue to build AI tooling that would help governance. And, 22 and the Small Grants kind of team were open to that idea. So, wrote this up and they were open to it and, approved the funding. And that was the first funding that I got from any DAO personally, and it was an exciting day for me.
Can you take me back then? This is August. What do you remember about that day? Who did you tell? Like, how did it feel when you got this post?
Oh 22? Man, it was a surreal feeling. It definitely was a surreal feeling because, as I'm sure you're familiar, there's ups and downs in crypto, and it was a cool moment because it felt like, okay, past an investment point of view, clearly this has been a value add to my life. I think experiences are, what kind of define you, experiences and habits, and being able to go. Securing this meant not just you've got funding. It's like you've got funding for 3 months to work on this problem, something that I was personally really interested with a group of people who are also interested in it that I found pretty intelligent and interesting people to have conversations with. So it felt pretty surreal. Definitely told like my parents and people close to me, and they didn't quite get it. Not all of them, but definitely were encouraging, gave words of encouragement at the time.
Yeah. Got to explore the people you're with. I had Honk on this stream, I think a month ago. I've been in touch with Steve. Are the three of you kind of the core of AI Pod, or who?
Yes. Yep. So it started, I was just doing kind of research on my own, and Honk was the first one to kind of see what I was doing and get really excited about it. Obviously, past 22 and 4 and 5 6 who kind of were there at the beginning, but Honk saw what I was doing and got really excited about it, and just started wanting to help, and ended up being like a huge help in terms of getting the first proof of concept of Rocko.dev up, which summarized all of the proposals as they were coming in. And that it was also great to have Honk on board because when Stable Diffusion released, we were able to kind of scale. We were able to turn that into the playground together because I was able to create kind of like experiments or kind of proofs of concepts, and he was able to turn those into production code that we were able to get on kind of beefy servers and share with people. So Honk was a huge addition to the team, and it was awesome to have him. And then once we got kind of towards the tail end of that first 3 months, Steve joined, and Steve started helping out on that Rocko side, because that's when Honk and I started working on the playground. So Steve was able to kind of keep Rocko going and start learning about these large language models on his side, throughout the end of that proposal. He ended up, because he was spending a lot of time learning, he didn't immediately jump on payroll because he was just contributing where he could, but also really got a lot out of that learning about these large language models, and kind of took us some time to get him totally up to speed, where I now very much so consider Steve a subject matter expert in natural language processing and that side of AI, or maybe not an expert, but experienced with it. And so, he had gone through and learned that and is now kind of leading that side of things. And that's, gone totally from just summaries to now we're talking about building a whole Nouns wiki that will drive an AI assistant. And, we're can't be more excited about it.
Totally. What I've been listening to your AI calls. You do those every other week, right? Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Exactly. Yep. Every other week, 10 a.m. Eastern.
You guys seem to have a good dynamic between the three of you where you kind of fill in for each other and check each other. And it seems like y'all work really well together. Is that, does that sound true, or what's it like really kind of working with Hank and Steve?
Yeah, I think I got really lucky, having these two guys join, or find what I was working on interesting and help out, and now have made it their own. Definitely, the dynamic is definitely great. We all have different perspectives, and different past experiences, different kind of areas of expertise, but we all, I think, are comfortable giving each other a hard time, joking with each other, and pushing each other to deliver. Like we all care about what we're working on. We care about Nouns. We care about delivering something, and we care about the proposals that we put together to because we're interested in what we're building. So it's really cool, and I definitely feel really fortunate to have had these two guys join the Nouns AI pod and help me lead it.
Yeah. Can we go into the props here? I love to kind of do retrospectives on the props.
Yeah.
So 156, this is when you went on chain in October. This is the first time going on chain, right?
Yeah. Yep. That was really an interesting experience.
Kind of a stunning result. But yeah, can you tell us about the experience, kind of putting this together, how it felt?
Yeah. So, that was kind of the end of our, first exploration. Hank and I was funded for that initial exploration. Then Hank was funded also from small grants during that time. And so this was our first time kind of formalizing it. And man, we were nervous. Like we wanted to make sure, we know that we knew what we were doing was valuable and interesting. And we knew that, people were excited about it because those were the people who were joining our calls every week. They were telling us that they were excited about it and loved what we were doing. But so many people that had voices, so many people, part of Nouns aren't joining those calls, obviously. And it was definitely an interesting experience to start talking with, different people to understand their points of view, understand, what they cared about, what they wanted to get out of Nouns, because everyone has, I think something slightly different. So, getting that feedback from many different people helped shape that proposal into what it became. And, that period of time from getting it uploaded to, it executing was a nerve-wracking period that, I'm not excited to ever revisit if we need to revisit. It's definitely a little bit stressful to go through that process, but I'm very happy that we did it. And I think we created a lot of really cool stuff from as a result of that proposal.
Fair enough. I won't make you revisit it too much, but I will note you got 181 for votes and 0 against.
Yeah, it's funny because it definitely felt not like that throughout, like while that was happening. Definitely felt a lot more contentious, but really appreciate the support that everyone showed going with that proposal.
And really a wide ranging consensus from across the DAO. Nounsel, Nounders, Shark DAO, Noun 40, Gami. I mean, you got some Seneca, you got some big voters here.
We got, and I the voter base seemed to change between this one and the next one. But just interesting, and the DAO changed significantly between this one and the next. Those there was a Discord, a centralized Discord when this one went down. And so it was interesting to see the change, throughout that period.
So yeah, so that's Prop 214. How
Mhm.
long after this was? What, about 3-4 months?
3 months. Yeah. So the first prop was for 3 months. And so this one went up at the 3 month mark. So I think it took about, we were working for about a week or so between there, but we're very much so happy to. And yeah, this one went up at the end of January for 6 months.
And yeah, so that's what you're currently working under. Really, I'd say an impressive prop here. A renewal of a pod, those are often sometimes difficult. And you 190 yes votes, 6 against. You locked it up real early.
I mean, that too was nervous. I mean, that one, we were down. The first thing that came out of the gate with that one was the Little Nouns prop. We were down an early 200 votes there. So, it definitely wasn't smooth sailing for this one either. It didn't feel like it. And there were definitely a lot of headwinds around making sure that the DAO was funding sustainable proposals, and that's definitely been an area of focus for us. As we start this next prop, and there was some negotiation that went down. There was, before we ended up rolling. Instead of rolling all of the leftover, marketing funds, I think were about 30 ETH from the past proposal directly into this one and using it for our budget. We ended up actually just sending that back to the DAO. So as a discount on this one. So this one is less, about 30 ETH, in cost from the DAO, and that transaction's visible on chain from our multi-sig as well. And so that was part of, an interesting experience of negotiating from the DAO, and understanding that it is tough for the DAO to negotiate with builders, but that was something facilitated by a discussion in the Jungle Discord, and so was a cool experience that time as well.
Yeah, negotiating in the Jungle is a cool experience. What else can you say? I feel like not many builders out there can really just experience that. What can you say about that experience? What's it like negotiating in the Jungle?
I like it. I like this idea of a platform where anyone can share their opinion, and I like seeing the different opinions and where they're coming from. And one thing that I strongly believe is that almost everybody thinks they're acting rationally, and so it's on you to try and understand why they're acting in a certain way if you don't understand it. So this, with that point of view, the Jungle was pretty fun. It's definitely a little stressful, hearing people, with some opposition to your ideas, but that's natural. And, I'm all about, talking those out and understanding their points of view, and sharing mine. And ours was, we have a clear vision of how we're going to provide value, and we think it really does. And we're going to put our money where our mouth is, like taking whatever we have left over and investing it into this, and also investing our time and committing to a half year of working on this. So I felt strongly about what we were bringing to the table, and I think that helped in that process.
Is there something in your background or experience that's led you to sort of embrace kind of negative feedback, or really kind of open up to listen to it? I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with, even in the Nouniverse.
Well, I'd say probably me being wrong a lot. No, but I definitely have made. I definitely think that idea of everybody is acting in a rational way to them is something that's important to me. And like I said before, I kind of have a big family, and that's led me to really love people. And I care about people. I care about how they feel, and what they care about. And I love hearing or talking to people who are excited about something, because I'm excited about a lot of things. And if you're excited about something and you're talking to me about it, presumably I'm learning about that. And that's really important to me. So, I've also realized that you can get a whole lot more done if you listen than if you don't. Being able to not just like hear people, but really hear them when they're talking, and being able to understand, try and figure out why they're coming from where they are and ask questions about it. That's interesting to me and exciting. And I feel like I learn more about the world, when I understand people's different opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Last question here. Just 3 minutes left. You got time for one
All
more?
right. Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay. So I was listening to the AI call today, and I've been kind of following Rocco.dev, which is sort of this beta version, kind of puts in sort of a summary of every proposal. And then I've also been thinking about how, you're training these models, you're giving them inputs. And it occurs to me that, well, I want to know if this frame is useful, but it seems like a lot of what Nouns DAO is going to sort of decide in terms of governance issues are sort of issues of first impression. I mean, obviously, Rage Quit is, there's Moloch DAOs with Rage Quit, and there's a whole body around that. But Rage Quit, as it applies to Nouns DAO, really strikes me as something new and novel. And it's interesting to think about that relative to an AI that's just kind of assimilating past information and trying to present it sort of in a compelling way. I wonder, does that make any sense to you?
So, could you try rephrasing it a little? So my take there was that, so the takeaway that I got there was, you saying that, so AI is important for having us understand things that have happened in the past. But I'm not sure if you have, if there was another piece in there.
Okay, let me kind of forget all that. Let me wrap it up better. So 247 is the first on-chain vote for Rage Quit, right?
Yep.
First 246 proposals had nothing to do with Rage Quit.
Yep.
So this version actually recommended voting for it. But yeah, I mean, what is it reasoning from? And isn't really the important stuff we need to think about really is how do you reason about something like Rage Quit when the first 246 proposals sort of all didn't deal with it?
Yeah, no, great question. So what this is reasoning from is right now only the prompt. So this tool was built kind of as a proof of concept of what we can do, and it was like, what can we build in a few months to get something up there and accessible that people can use and provide some sense of value, and an idea of what these tools can do. So it was almost like a proof of concept. And what you're mentioning are the are the huge limitations of this, right? It doesn't have an understanding of Rage Quit, because how would it understanding of Rage Quit right now? To understand Rage Quit, it'd either have to do some research on its own online, which is a little bit hit or miss, because who knows how exactly what kinds of sources on Rage Quit discussions are actually indexed by these search engines. A lot of the discussion happens in Discords, obviously, but that's a key piece, right? A lot of these discussions do happen in Discord. You mentioned it being novel, but I've seen discussions of Rage Quit since I've been in the original Nouns Discord, and people have definitely been talking about it. So that's, to us, how we start reasoning on these kinds of things. Is there's two pieces, right? There's one part which is how do you build a system that is given this knowledge, it's able to pull information out of it. What you're talking about is that second piece, which we also think is super important. How do you find information and structure it so that it found valuable information and structure it in a way that you can make it usable for other people, like get it in front of them. And so that's what we're trying to work on now is, taking those discussions from, obviously like starting with proposals, but then taking discussions that are happening across all these different Nounish discords, and eventually hopefully Twitter as well, and different YouTube videos, podcasts, newsletters, and having them all dump into this central place that can pull out entities from them and organize that activity according to those entities, so that our system can understand that, and you can actually use that to do a few things. One, take have a vote, or a stance one way or another on a proposal, but also maybe you're giving feedback on it, or being able to track, hey, whatever happened to proposal 214, what's all the chatter that's happened since it got passed, and where could I go to, like, who could I talk to that's still involved with it, right? Like, those are the things that we're now trying to build towards. And I mean, that Rocco.dev is I'd say a beta or an example at the most.
Fantastic. I would say thank you so much for coming on, Shep. Really appreciate talking to you. You are the lead for Nouns DAO AI Pod, Twitter at the hero Shep. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a fun discussion.
All right. Thanks.
Yep.